So in this episode, I want to talk about the nature of hate. Hatred. It's such a misunderstood emotion. So many people are afraid of the hate they have within themselves. And, I used to be one of those people. Because, just underneath hate, you can feel there's a desire for some form of vengeance, or at the very least, resentment. And, what I've come to learn over the years of exploring my own consciousness and my own journey of self-awareness, I've come to learn that resentment is, and even hatred, is repressed love. It's repressed love. It's love we never got to express. So if you've listened to my episode on love, I explain the nature of life from my perspective, in that it's an expression of a feeling that's evoked within you. We can't give it to each other. We can only be part of someone else's experience of the universe, mirroring love to them. And by just following our nature, then if the universe wants to reflect someone experiencing love to them, then if you follow your own nature, you can be a part of that. You allow your own nature to arise, you express that. But again, that's when you express it, it's a feeling within you that arises. You're not giving anything to anyone. You're just expressing yourself, your nature. So hatred can be explained as the blame we're putting on someone other than ourselves for not expressing our nature. So it's very easy to, blame a terrorist or, blame someone else for being the source of our pain. But pain is always in relation to unrealized potential. Always. That potential being for love to be expressed in all of its flavors. One of the metaphors I used was, seeing a rabbit out on the grass and then pointing to it, and there's a child in the room. You say, look at the rabbit. And you share that moment together, and that's love. You didn't give anything to each other. You both saw the rabbit, pointed at it at the same time, and you shared a moment. You shared a moment. All of the feelings, they rose up within you. They were evoked from within you. You didn't give each other anything. You only gave to yourself. You felt a feeling, you allowed it to arise, and you expressed the truth of that in that moment. And you both did it. That's what self-love is. And when we give ourselves self-love, when we feel that feeling arise and then we just express it, whatever it is, when we express our true nature, it means we're taking part in the universe, mirroring to other people. who and what they are. What they're a match to. I mean, it's not really receiving. It's just a mirror. This is what I am. This is what I am. I'm someone capable of experiencing love, not receiving it, experiencing it. And so it doesn't matter whether this person evokes it in me, or this person evokes it in me, or this rabbit evokes it in me, or this painting evokes it in me, or my teacher, or this new pair of jeans I bought, or playing tennis. I know that I'm a match to love. And so I experience it everywhere I go. So there's no way to give someone love, only to take part in them experiencing love by following our own nature. So the flip side of that is withholding it, withholding our nature. We feel a feeling arise and we withhold it, or we basically choke it to death using our mind. We feel it arising, and then our mind strangles it to death before it can come out. We feel it, and then we contemplate it for a second. Oh, I can't say that. What if I said that? So-and-so might react. I might hurt their feelings. They might lash out at me. I might look stupid. They won't like that. I'll look like an idiot. I'll sound dumb. There's a myriad reasons. They might hurt me. I might not get fed. So many reasons why we withhold our nature. And of course, they're all valid. All of them are valid. Because as long as there's fear present, we are withholding our nature. So you can see how, fear is, it's the reason why we hate. Because we're projecting the perceived cause of why we're withholding our nature onto someone else. The banking system, corporations, my boss at work. But the truth is, and we can use the boss at work scenario to explore this because it's a really good metaphor. You go to work, you do your job, and your boss is always on your case. It's never good enough. You're doing a fantastic job. All your results are brilliant. You get a great performance review every time. And yet your boss is always riding you. Or seemingly getting triggered by you. Potentially even bullying you. Passive aggression. Oh God, that's the worst. Passive aggression. Just, if you're going to be angry, at least have the guts to, share it. Anyway, that was a passive aggressive statement I just said. So, why? Why is that? Why is that? Why am I being bullied in the workplace? I do a great job. It's all good. I don't bother anyone. I get to work on time. Why am I getting bullied? And it's so simple. It's because you're withholding your nature in the workplace. You're bullying yourself into fitting into a culture or to doing a job that you don't want to be doing. Your nature's trying to arise and you're bullying yourself. Your mind's kicking in, strangling out your nature and saying, I need to act this way because to please the bosses. I need to act that way to please my team. I need to act that way so that the lady in procurement is nice to me. I need to act that way so that the lady in accounts doesn't get angry at me. I need to act this way so the storeman doesn't yell at me. Just withholding your nature, analyzing your behavior before you actually behave. And you're in an environment where people are actually encouraging you to think before you speak. Like, think about what that actually is inferring. Think before you speak. That just, it shows you the culture of how lacking in self-trust we are, that we don't trust ourselves enough, that when we get the urge to express ourselves, we don't trust that we're going to be safe in the environment that we're in if we express our truth. So you can see how, what the culture's like. It's almost insidious. Anyway, long story short, if you're getting bullied in the workplace, it's because you're unable to follow your nature. But the truth is, you're perceiving your boss as being the bully, or whoever it is being the bully. But it's just mirroring to you how much you're bullying yourself into being some other way than your true nature. So the solution, figure out a way to allow your true nature and express it in the workplace, and be prepared to suffer the consequences. And if there are consequences and your truth means that there's an incompatibility between you and the workplace, then find harmony. Next time you go for a job, focus on culture rather than, the package. Does it have a company car? Those things are great, but what good are they if you can't follow your own nature? What good are they if you have to bully yourself into being a specific way to please the people around you? So it's just really about being conscious about what it is you really want and what the real reasons why you're experiencing certain things are happening. And I only know this because I've experienced it so often. Because by nature, I'm aberrant. I'm atypical. And, we're all unique. But I think I'm unique in that, we are all unique is the reality of it. But some people, it's a real feature, and it's a feature for me. My perspective is unusual. It's not usual. And so I've had to modify my behavior in order to fit in. I've had to oppress my true nature in order to fit in. And the reality is I just do not fit in to a corporate culture at all. And I almost always have some kind of boss that's, that bullies me for seemingly no reason to me. I feel like I'm doing a good job, doing really well. Everything's going in the right direction. And people around me are commending me on the job that I'm doing. Team's thriving. They're enjoying it. But I'm getting bullied. And it wasn't until I left the corporate world that I actually realized what the hell was going on. But again, to bring it back to this point about hatred, it's kind of related to the bully, really, because you're blaming someone else. But the truth is, it's you're the one making the choice to withhold your nature, to withhold your true self. because of the perceived consequences, which are probably valid. Nonetheless, you're the bully. Because when we withhold our nature, that is the greatest form of oppression that exists. And imagine what the world would be like if people knew about the nature of the universe and that it's a mirror. You know, you could look at the psyche of a country like North Korea, and you know, you'd be able to dismantle it and say, well, we've got an extremely bullying and oppressive force, and that's the cause of our issues. That's the reason why we're so oppressed. And yeah, of course, it is. But do people in North Korea follow their own nature? Not at all. They get told what to do, how to do it, when to do it. I mean, you know, the tough reality, and it's I mean, of course it's easy for me to say this. I'm not in that scenario. But what would happen? I mean, you still have a choice whether or not to follow your nature. And that's, you know, you may have heard people say that no one can truly oppress you. You're always free. You're always free. You know, even if you're imprisoned, or even if you're bullied, or even if you're, you know, persecuted, or the rest of it. You know, there are people that say, and I never understood this. I don't know if they did either, but it's true. Because you can still, in every moment, choose to express your nature. No one can actually force you to oppress your own nature. It's not possible. And if you were able to, in a moment, next time you're feeling bullied or persecuted or picked on or anything like that, see if you can be poised enough or composed enough to just notice the fear. Try and detect it within your body. See if you can figure out where that fear is. Then just hone in on it, and then just intend to sink underneath it by about, just 5 centimeters. Just you find it, you hone in on it, and then you just intend to sink underneath it by 5 centimeters. And see if you can sink underneath the fear to find the true, authentic nature that you want to express in that moment. It'll be there. It'll be there. And, it's not going to be love, it's not going to be joy or anything like that. But the authentic nature will be there. And it will always be to, of course, to protect first and foremost. But underneath the fear, there is an expression of love. There is. Now that is very, very hard to believe, but when you remind yourself that what's happening to you in that moment is a mirror, it's a reflection. It's a reflection of disharmony within you. It's a reflection of a part of yourself that you are antagonizing. It's a part of yourself that you're withholding. And if you can find that desire, because it's always a repressed desire, if you can find that desire and figure out a way to just express it anyway. I mean, this is extremely advanced kind of self-mastery, of course. Some antagonist in your face, antagonizing you, bullying you. And in the moment, you're able to find the repressed desire that you're repressing within yourself. That's causing the universe to mirror that to you. And you can diffuse the entire thing in that moment. And over time, you'll start to realize, once you become, it is a skill. Of course, it's a skill. But once you start to notice the pattern, like you do it a couple of times and you're like, oh, that diffused easily. And you'll do it again and you're like, oh, that really, I thought that was going to be worse. And you'll just start to notice. You'll start to notice these people really are just mirroring to me how oppressive I am to myself. And once you realize that, and once you know it because you've experienced the truth of it, the world becomes much, much less antagonistic. Much less antagonistic. So the nature of hate is the same thing. We mainly hate people. Well, the people we hate are people who we perceive as prevented us from being able to express our true nature somehow, which is love. And, so the classic ones, we blame our parents, blame the banks, blame the monetary system, the economy, the prime minister, the president, the mayor, our teachers. Who else can we blame? It's endless. It's endless. But what's the truth? The truth is that all of it exists because we've made decisions along the line somewhere to withhold our nature. And it's like in the podcast I did about people who are marginalized and the global issue that's going on at the moment, where they're talking about passing laws forcing people to address certain people by certain pronouns, and that's just, that is a classic example of trying to, it's a mirror to us, showing us how much we're trying to repress our nature just so we don't trigger people. Because if you're a marginalized person, there's so much shame attached to your privilege. And so you're treading on eggshells, withholding your nature, just so you don't trigger someone. And we've become so PC about it now, and we've got so much fear about it. We don't want to trigger someone. Oh my goodness, is that a man? Is that a woman? Is it a they? Is she a they? Is he a... it is so hard. It's so hard to navigate. And all this fear is breeding within the consciousness of human beings. It manifests as a law that's trying to oppress us into doing it a specific way. But underlying that law is a fear just sitting within the consciousness of the collective of human beings. It's just this fear. It's just mirroring it to us so perfectly. And, there's so many laws that just have been put in place that are a reflection of our own self-oppression. Because if you look at it, if you peel back all the layers, we've put all those laws there because the lawmakers, we put them there with our vote. And by putting them there with our vote, we've decided that it's acceptable for those people to make laws. And so they're all just choices we've made to oppress ourselves, you see. So nothing really exists that's not a mirror of our own self-oppression. You know, the economy being the way it is, all of it comes back to decisions we've made to empower people to be able to pass laws that are oppressive in nature, that feel oppressive. But they're all choices, all choices. And those, the same people that we put in those positions are the same ones that allow certain things to go on that we also hate. So it all comes back to us. All the responsibility comes back to us. But the truth is, it's self-oppression. And I would say, from my perspective, I would say a lot of the reason why we actually like to blame others. We like to blame the government. We like to blame one person, like a president or a prime minister for why the world's so screwed up. I mean, when you really begin to understand the nature of nature, and you look at that and you look at one human being in an office, and then you look at, billions of other human beings behaving in the world, following their nature. And we think that putting a law in place is going to modify, is going to make people to stop wanting to behave in that way. Because their nature is still going to arise, whether there's a law or not. If someone has the desire to hurt someone, or if someone has the desire to steal something, then putting the law in place doesn't stop the desire from rising up. So the person still wants to do the stealing, but they're perhaps, the perceived consequences are causing them to repress their nature. It's causing them to oppress their authentic desire. So you see, laws that impinge upon people's nature are not just pointless, but they're part of the problem. And it's just going to fester. The more that we create ways for people to withhold their own nature, the more it breeds resentment. The more resentment, the more anger. And that anger, if it's not expressed, that will turn into some form of vengeance that will be enacted upon. It's just the nature of it. It's the nature of it, because remember, at the core of this is unrealized, unexpressed love, which means unrealized potential. And that just builds and builds and builds. It has to be expressed. It has to be expressed. Ideally, through identifying, as I was talking about before, sinking beneath the fear or the anger or whatever it may be, to find the repressed desire and allow that to rise and be expressed, and job done. Job done. But as I said, there's a million reasons why we don't allow ourselves to do that, and they're valid. But it is what it is. I still struggle with this all the time, but the truth of it is extremely powerful. And so I also wanted to talk about, it's probably a topic for another audio, but No, I'll do it now because it is related. Now, if you feel angry and you just allow yourself to just swim around in that anger, you allow it to permeate you, you stay with it, you allow it, you invite it in, and then you start trying to, you kind of intend to feel the nature of it. You feel it. And if you're like me, and, I know lots of people say, I can't do that, but everyone has this ability. It's just a matter of trusting it. And working with it enough so that you prevent your mind from tampering with what's actually arising. So for me, what happens is I start to see a texture, and then I see a color of the anger. And so right now I'm seeing it's almost like it's black, but it's like licorice. It's kind of greenish. And so that's what I'm seeing. And it's kind of the consistency of wet sand. And so it's got a texture, and it's kind of, coagulated. And then if you sink underneath it, it becomes a bit stickier or more like tar. And then if you just stay with it, it becomes repellent, starting to feel repellent, repugnant. Now it's changed to repugnant, disgusting. Now it's disgusting. See, these are different, hues of anger, of emotion that actually I'm experiencing right now. And now it's getting really tacky, and I'm finding it hard to sink deeper underneath it. But if I just stay with it, just allow it, there's quite a bit of resistance down here because we're so used to turning our back on our shadows. We're always trying to move towards the light. And some of you will be quivering, going, "Oh my God, you're focusing on negativity. It's going to manifest. The opposite is true." And so, just struggling to get through this last bit. It's extremely tacky. It's like being up to my waist in mud. But if you just stay with it, you'll eventually drop out the bottom. Here it is. Shame. Shame. I am ashamed. I am ashamed. I'm humiliated. No, it's still ashamed. See, I'm going in and out of it now. You see it has layers. And so now I can just feel myself sliding out the bottom. I am shameless. Yeah, I am shameless. So what I've done here is I've found the light within the shadow. And so you'll hear me talking on a lot of these audios saying, the brightest light is contained within the darkest shadow. This is what I mean. When you lean in to your emotions and you learn how to get all your senses working together to sink underneath it and just trust what you're seeing, what you're feeling, what you're interpreting. And I call it rampaging. I find that I just name it when I detect it, like I was doing. And, I am really helps. You don't have to say I am, but it just helps to really claim it and invite it back in to a state of wholeness with you, because when you're experiencing it, normally you're resisting it. And so you're wanting to bring it back in and reclaim it, because that's where all your power is. It's in your shadows. So you reclaim it, sink into it, and just be patient. Just persist and allow yourself to experience all those emotions. Just feel the anger and notice that it's nowhere near as powerful as what you think, because you're not resisting it anymore. You sink into all of these feelings, and don't worry about being wrong either. It's not actually possible to be wrong. Because your truth is your own, and you're the only one that gives you permission to claim that truth. And I'll give you an example, because a lot of people don't know what that means. So let's say I'm sinking into my emotions, and I was like, okay, anger, that resentment, shame, guilt. And then I said, custard. That is still my truth. You see, no one has the power to tell you whether you're right or wrong about anything. If you say custard, you claim the truth of that in that moment and then move on to the next moment. Custard, potatoes. It won't be any of those things, but you see what I mean. Your truth is yours. There is no right or wrong. There is just your experience. And my experience is, so we'll go back to where I came out the bottom. Shameless. Now, some of you might say, well, it's not it's not anything to write home about that you're shameless. There's that TV program called Shameless, and it's meant as a derogatory term. I'm pretty sure. And but shameless is the light aspect of some of the darkest shadows, like repugnance and disgusting. I am disgusting. I am repugnant. I am repulsive. I'm repulsive. I am abhorrent. I'm just feeling these now. And then I am ashamed. See, it's right at the bottom, ashamed. And then it sinks out the bottom into shameless. And then everything expands. It's just a beautiful feeling. And so I'll explain it now. I'm just basking in it. So shameless is a state where you are devoid of shame. So it's pretty obvious, I suppose. But what does that mean to be? It's just washing over me now. Being devoid of shame means that you are not repressing any of your desires. And so you can see it was definitely worthwhile me sharing this in this particular audio, because in a state of having no shame, you are not withholding any of your nature, because the purpose of shame is to hide a truth of ourselves, of our nature. And so when let's say in the workplace, to use that example we were using, the reason we withhold our nature, we might feel a feeling arise. We might want to just allow ourselves to express that nature, which is self-love. And then we choose to withhold it. So we oppress it. We choose to withhold it. Shame is what hides it. So we push it down, and our shame hides it. And so in that moment, we're actually feeling a sense of shame for wanting to express ourselves in a way that would seem abnormal, you see. So we're judging ourselves as abnormal. We're judging ourselves as wrong. We're saying to ourselves that if I express the truth of who I am, I could be in danger. Something might happen. And so it turns into a bird's nest, because you're developing a meaning, and meaning is all that matters. You're developing a hidden meaning or a backstory that's saying to the universe, I cannot be trusted. My nature cannot be trusted. And it begins to start protecting you from yourself. So this is a really, really, it just creates so much discord and disharmony. And, it's like whenever I, consider this topic in particular about shameless, I always think about, the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, and, they're frolicking around, totally naked, totally bare. They're totally shameless. And their true nature is just on display. It's perfect, having the time of their lives. And what's the first thing that happens when they eat the forbidden fruit? Is they get ashamed and they cover up. And so you see, that shame of their true nature, of allowing it to be expressed, is the original sin. And if you, I don't want to confuse you, but when you really get into this and you start to recognize the hues of all the emotions, and you can feel that in your body, you're not resistant to them anymore. But you can actually say, I am repugnant, and you just feel the texture of it. You're not afraid of it. You're not trying to resist it. It's just part of you. It's not going to cause anything to manifest. You can feel it. It exists as potential energy. Once you stop resisting an emotion, it just exists within you as potential. And so you don't have to be afraid of it ever manifesting out of the blue, although you can never predict what's going to arise from your nature, because your truest essence is you're the primordial substance, which is pure chaos, seemingly. But anyway, that's don't want to go too deep there for now. So shameless is a state of being entirely and totally authentic, and is potentially one of the most powerful states of being there is. Because you're not hiding anything, you're allowing yourself to be naked. And that's where in that state is where you are all powerful. And I mean all powerful. You are totally in your power. You've reclaimed all of it. And there's no, because actually this is the last thing I'll finish on, because if you're resisting certain emotions, like shadow emotions, like repulsiveness, disgusting, what are some of the worst ones? Like I've done abomination. I'm an abomination. I'm a freak of nature. The thing that led me to that one was my views and my perspectives. I've felt so different because of all the stuff that I believe. And I've honed in on an emotion to such a precise point where I can feel that the emotion or the I am of it is that I am a freak of nature. And for those of you that can relate to this, when you sink into this one, you discover that the meaning of a freak of nature is for something to arise from nature that was unexpected. How beautiful is that? That is love itself. Something arises in nature and it was unexpected and you experience love. And it's like that metaphor I've spoken about where you see a rabbit on the grass and you point at it and the child points at it and you see it at the same moment. It was unexpected. Something in nature arises unexpectedly and you both experience love because you shared that moment. That's what happens when love arises unexpectedly, spontaneously, you could say, in the moment. That's what happens. So if you are resisting the part of you that is a freak of nature, you are resisting the part of you that wants to express its own nature. And so you will find so much power in claiming that part of you. I am a freak of nature. You'll find so much power in that. It could be extremely life-changing, in fact, especially if you feel like a freak of nature and it's really getting you down. So, yeah, that's how this works. And it's an extremely liberating feeling being able to walk around in your skin. And again, this is not to say I'm some enlightened being, but I'm someone who's not afraid of their emotions anymore. If I feel something, I just lean into it, sink into it straight away. It's a habit now. Just allow it. And I even almost get a little bit excited because I know there's a gem underneath that, because the greatest light's contained within the darkest shadows. So as soon as I find the hue of that emotion, that negative emotion, sink into it, I'm just waiting to fall out the bottom of it, doing the rampage as I go. I am insignificant. I am nothing. I am of no thing. I am of no matter. I do not matter. I am of no matter. And when you sink that one of insignificance, of being insignificant, when you fall out of the bottom of that, it goes into I am invalid, and then I am void, and then you become the void in your pure space, and you realize that you exist as pure potential to become anyone or anything. And so you see, resistance to your shadows is hiding your brightest light and the majority of your power. So, yeah, hopefully that makes sense. And if it doesn't matter, because, there's layers to this, and, you'll go and listen to something else and you'll be like, oh, I heard that the other day, or you'll come back and listen to this in 6 months maybe, and you'll be like, oh, that sounds completely different. I didn't hear that last time. So it's like, whatever you got from it is perfect. And, my hope is that the piece of it that you take away is, the power that lies within us, leaning into and sinking underneath the emotions that we're normally resistant to, so that we can reveal our brightest light. Okay, let's be shameless. Okay, cheers for now.